Hello everyone and welcome to the tier list video. So I'm going to be rating every single moon from Lethal Company, and we're going to do it from the top to the bottom of the terminal, pretty much just going in order like I would for a normal Iron Man video. And I want to say this is pretty much just going to be personal opinion, but I will try to go over everything that I do like about a moon, what I don't like, and what I think could be like changed or added. Alright, so the very first moon, Experimentation. Well, I mean, for the starter map, it is definitely in a good position. But, like, while it's great for casual play and getting players introduced to the game, I wouldn't say that it's, exactly the greatest moon to play long term. There's basically, like, no real incentive to go to Experimentation after you're actually, like, familiar with the game. That isn't to say, though, that Experimentation is a bad map. I think it's really good for what it's trying to accomplish, but it's just not great for when you're trying to actually get loot or, like, do something. Honestly, Experimentation was a great, like, introduction to the game when I did start as well, because I thought there was going to be a lot of places you could explore outside on every moon, so it incentivized me to actually explore, but it's not like it was really fully fleshed out. Which is the only thing that really bums me out about Experimentation and like really most of the map's exteriors is that it's just kind of bland really. There's nothing really like popping out at you. Experimentation probably has the most out of every single map. And even then it feels kind of bland almost. I honestly think that Experimentation could definitely have more added to it in terms of like set pieces outside and just fleshing the map out more. But in terms of like balancing the interior or adding enemies or anything, I think it's honestly in like a perfect spot. So I think I'm gonna have to. It's either gonna be a C or D tier, and honestly, with how bad the map is, I'm gonna put it as a D tier. It's just not good. It's not like an F tier though, because you can still play the moon. It's a really good introduction. There's not really much by way of enemies at all. It's just overall a great moon for casual players, but beyond that, I don't think it's that great. Assurance is honestly such a great map, and it's like literally the best out of all the tier 1s. I think I can give this an immediate A rank before I even say anything because Assurance is just so good. It's been nerfed a little bit. I believe it was like version 50 or so that it got nerfed. Basically just increasing like the amount of turrets you had spawning everywhere. But even with the nerf, Assurance is still just the best tier 1 moon to go to. Experimentation has no loot, Vow isn't the greatest, and it's just not that much risk for a lot of reward. Most of the outdoor enemies that do spawn are usually pretty counterable, unless you get some like incredibly shit luck, which just makes it like awful. And not only do you have all of that, but Assurance is honestly like great for the cruiser. Like, not only is like, I should have mentioned it for Experimentation too. Experimentation's okay with the cruiser. I mean, it helps, but it's not like the biggest boon ever. You can kind of just play without it. Assurance makes the cruiser like a lot more viable. It's still not crazy, but it's still great to have. The only part that makes me sad, like about thinking about Assurance, is that there used to be a jump that was a lot easier to go from like that train section or whatever to onto a rock, and then also making like the fire exit jump practically impossible as well. Now that I'm thinking about it as well, with like version 60, Assurance was practically buffed as well with the amount that you get out of it because of the new like loot items actually increasing the amount you can get. Overall, there isn't really much I would change about Assurance. I think it's in a good spot. The main thing that keeps Assurance from being an S tier instead of and just like keeping it in the A tier is that it just doesn't spawn enough scrap. Even with the mineshaft slightly buffing the amount you can get with the 6 item increase when like you get a mineshaft interior, it's just not enough. Like the value of the scrap on Assurance is just not high enough to compete with higher tier moons. It just really isn't. Which is the main reason it stays in a comfortable A tier. Okay, so Vow. I mean, it's certainly an okay map. My biggest gripe about Vow is that giants just don't work properly, and because of that, the main gimmick about playing around giants just fucking sucks if you don't know how to play against them. And even if you do know how to play against giants, they can still sometimes just be a nightmare and just fuck with you for no reason because they actually hate you. Which would be like, I guess, fine on its own, but then you also have the incredibly high bracken chance inside, so you get to see that, but it's also just like, please, man. Now, while it does have all of those bad things with the enemies, you do have the somewhat counterbalance with the highest chance for bees on any tier 1 moon, which makes it a lot more lucrative, usually. With my luck, you're going to be getting no bees, or they're going to be spawning on the AI nodes furthest from the ship because fuck you. And if you're not relying on beehives, there's a really good mineshaft chance for the insides, so you'll probably be getting the 6 item increase from there. The only issue being, it's a mineshaft, so if you get bad luck, you're gonna get practically fuck all. Vow is probably the map where it's just the most rage-inducing for me because it's just please. I literally have to leave so early to play, so I don't have to play against giants. But if you leave early, then you can't get enough loot to actually justify going there. The main thing that really needs to be changed about Vow to make it a better map is just to fix giant AI, and then it'll be good. Because the main issue right now is that their meter doesn't really decrease properly. So they pretty much just always insta-aggro onto you after they spotted you for the first time, which is just not cool on a giant-only map. Well, I say giant-only, but it's not giant-only. You can get Earth Leviathans and Baboon Hawks and dogs and all that, but you're mainly going to be getting giants on this map. There used to be a jump at the fire exit as well that you could jump onto the dam, but it's been patched out unfortunately, which did make Vow a little bit better. So you could get the mineshaft, get a shit ton from there, and then take everything back up on the concrete bridge, but can't exactly do that anymore. You can use the extension ladder. If you go directly to the right, there's enough a slope that goes down just enough for you to actually be able to use the ladder. But overall, it's probably not the best idea. I would honestly say that Vow is definitely a playable moon, but if you get some shit luck with the giants, you're just gonna die. I feel from a casual perspective though, Vow could be great just because of the Bracken chance, making it that plus the caves, making it incredible for jump scares and funny moments like that. But I think long term, you're probably just gonna get aggravated from dealing with random bullshit and the Bracken AI just deciding to snap your neck in the caves because why not? Vow is just, it's a really good, tier 1 moon, but it's not good enough to be an A tier. It's definitely a B tier. As soon as the giant AI works properly, and you can play against them well, just with that alone, it'll immediately be A tier. Because then the loot actually is I feel the risk actually justifies the reward on the map. If you have a good team, Vow should be giving you a pretty good amount. But the main issue is it's just not going to be that consistent, and it would just be a better idea to go to the more lucrative moons later on. It's just too much of a randomized risk for what you're getting out of it. I think it would be cool if there were some set pieces or something you could go out and explore, using the ladder maybe to get up to some area and then you find some shack and it gives you some lore. I don't know, just something more to spice up the outdoors would be cool, or just places to find. Okay, so Offense. It is certainly a map, and this map certainly does exist in the tier 2s. This map is just way too much of a risk for what it gives you. It is literally the most dangerous tier 2 in my opinion. I would literally rather go to March or Adamance over this every time. The main issue with Offense is that its value is just way too low for what it provides. It needs something to be buffed up and to remove some of the lower value items, bad. I don't think it needs to be majorly tweaked though to be some crazy valuable moon, almost it shouldn't rival tier 3 moons, but it needs to be better. You can't seriously justify going to Offense because the, bad enemy spawns are just way too high. Why would I ever want to deal with, a Coilhead Thumper combo when I could go to Adamance and just have a way less chance to get a Coilhead? Granted, I still have, worse enemy spawns there that could happen, but I feel Offense is just more consistently bad. And it's not even the enemies that are the, single issue either. You also have, spike traps and your turrets and your landmines just scattered everywhere. The value just needs to be brought up a little bit more. Just shave off, some of the worse off days you can get from it. And suddenly Offense is a little bit better. And it's the risk wouldn't be nearly as much of an issue if you could get bees outside. But you can't get bees on Offense. Literally, I just don't ever see a purpose to going here. I think the parkour that you used to be able to do more consistently, like with the rock jump and everything, like you can still do the scaffolding and rock jump, I'm pretty sure, but it's just a lot harder now. And you can navigate it like around as well with the ladder, and I feel like tier 2 moons really start to justify actually purchasing equipment, which I really like that about them. Like a fence with like all of its verticality with like all the shit outside, especially like with some of the fences on some of the pipes, I feel like you could have secret areas to explore for like some lore or something. Once again, I really want my lore. I don't know. I just can't ever see like a real reason of going here, and I don't see casuals going here either or liking this map because it's just too hard. I'm genuinely like debating on putting a fence in F tier because I just don't like it at all. It's like playable, but I personally hate Offense. It is literally the worst map for me to ever go to. I feel like if you can actually manage to get a lot out of it, it feels incredibly rewarding, but I just don't really like having to risk all that just for a mediocre, like, sum. I don't know. As things currently stand, I think Offense just needs to be buffed up a little bit and maybe just shave off the higher risk of it so it's actually a little bit better to go to. Once we've got that, I feel like I'll bump it up, but for right now, I literally just never go to Offense. I actually would rather go to Embrion more than Offense because I know I'll actually have fun on Embrion, but I will not have fun on Offense. Okay, so March. It's definitely... I practically hate this map almost as much as Offense, but not for the same reasons. The main reason I hate March is just because the map size is way too fucking big. Like, yeah, sure, you've got some decent loot spawns, like for the tier 2s, and you've got a lot of hives, but when you're trying to loot inside, it's so bad. It literally has like an equal or higher like indoor size to like than like Titan. So it's like pretty much as soon as you see a brick room on March, it's just like, well, sick. I'm gonna have to like run for 50 hours just to find the next loot room. Like I would rather ding my head against a pan 50 times. You know, this is actually making me reconsider the Offense rating. I would actually rather play Offense more than I would rather play March, just literally because of the whole interior like thing being so bad. Like, you can play against the, like, outdoor and interior enemies. Like, the map is so big that it makes it a lot easier to counter everything since you're not going to be dealing with as much at once, since it's probably going to be scattered across the map. And it's like, if you can tolerate the map size and everything, then it's honestly a really good map for, like, the value of the loot you can get for not too much risk, in my opinion, for the tier 2s. And not only that, but you've got some like good bee spawns, which also buff up the actual value of the moon. I honestly think it'll sit comfortably last in the D tier, because it's just so bad. I don't like March. It's just way too much running around for nothing. Like, yes, I've run down the infinitely long brick tunnel just for a metal sheet that's worth $13, man. You know, honestly, similar to Offense, March needs to be buffed with its like indoor value just a little bit so I'm not actually dying inside. I feel like you could argue that the hives outside do bring up the overall value enough that you don't really need to buff the inside loot though. Because it's like, this map has the highest chance for bees out of any map, but it just doesn't feel great. I don't know. To me, it always feels a lot better to actually get a bunch of scrap out and like a lot of value rather than just a bunch of bees. I feel like the map design though is honestly pretty good. Like it feels great running around and like actually going through all the exits. For the most part, you have like a decent amount of paths to actually run around and like have geometry to block like giant line of sight and all that stuff. Once again, maybe some secret lore scattered around would be cool, but like to actually incentivize running around some of like the more secluded areas on March. But I really don't think it needs to be changed a crazy amount. One thing is for sure though, that interior size needs to be cut down or something. I feel like the reason why the interior size is so large is because of the 3 fire exits on the outside. But the issue is, the fire exits usually spawn close by to each other, so you get fucked with that. And if you aren't getting trolled with that, then you're probably going to get trolled with getting absolutely nothing by the fire exits and all the loot's actually 50 miles down the tunnel once again. I just have had so many bad experiences running down brick rooms, finding nothing on this map. I hate it. So I just realized I forgot to mention it for the 3 maps that I was just talking about. So the cruiser is somewhat viable on Vow. It's definitely usable, but if you do any if you do the 5 cruiser boost jump from the ship to main, you don't break any of the trees on the way back, so dealing with giants during the night is just impossible. So you're practically forced to just drive through the trees to get to the fire main area, and then you can use the eject to get onto the bridge. So it's pretty good for Vow, but the terrain makes it really hard to drive around. When using it on a fence, it's really good, but again, it can be somewhat of a difficulty. It's just using the ejects properly is the main way to use Cruiser on that map. And then for March, it is really, really good for March because it cuts down so much of the time it would take to transfer between everything. But if you're playing in a party, you're probably going to have everyone split between all the exits anyways, so you could have it at main or something, and it's pretty useful either way. Alrighty, and the final tier 2 moon, Adamance. Immediately going into A tier before I say anything again, and it's honestly going above Assurance, because this is definitely the very best moon to go to. The best free moon, at least. The actual amount of scrap you'll get inside, it honestly just justifies the risk outside, and then you get a decent chance for bees, but that's not really the main reason you go here. However, if you're a casual, this map fucking sucks because you don't know any of the tech to get around. Adamance basically just requires the most advanced tech out of any map to actually get around the map and actually knowing the map, which is the main reason why this map usually isn't played. It's just too hard for most people because they don't know how to get around until they go through the valley or something and just die. And because of the difficulty, most people just write the map off before even trying to learn it, which just kind of sucks. If you get good with it though, Adamance is the best moon. It is definitely kind of weird though that for Adamance, it is the only moon where literally one of the best routes to go from main back to the ship is literally going outside of the map technically. You're kind of almost going outside of the map multiple times on Adamance to actually get around properly to deal with shit. Which kind of then makes you wonder how you're actually supposed to play Adamance, because it feels like things like that can definitely make it seem a little off. Ultimately though, I usually don't have too many issues with outdoor enemies, and it's mainly just indoor enemies that give me a run for my money. And the best thing about Adamance is that it is the smallest tier 2 moon with its indoor size, so you're probably going to be finding a bunch of loot pretty quickly. You can get it out through fire or something, and then you're just good. I think the map just needs to be fleshed out a little bit more. Maybe make some routes a bit more obvious for casual players, because I feel like it's just too difficult for casuals right now. There just needs to be something to actually guide them around the map. Honestly, the more that I think about it, I think I'm going to put March to a C tier or a high D tier, because it's the beehives on the map almost make the map a lot more playable and a lot more lucrative. So it's not the worst tier 2 ever, yeah, blah, blah. March definitely isn't the worst tier 2 ever. It's ever. It's definitely not as bad as Offense, I'm saying. My main gripe with it is just that the interior size is so large, so you have to go between all the exits usually. I mean, if you have the cruiser though, or some form of mobility, March just becomes a lot better. Just get mediocre luck, and it's honestly not horrible. I would just like it if the map was just a little bit better. Okay, so Rend, the first tier 3 moon. Honestly, with all of the updates, it's in a good spot not having worms anymore and having a decent inside pool. But the main issue with Rend is just that giants, their meter, once again, just doesn't reset like it should, so it can be kind of annoying to play it. This is the one map where you're practically forced to take a stun grenade just so you can actually deal with the damn giants. Literally, as soon as the giant meter is fixed, Rend becomes way more playable and way more fun. I think it's honestly gonna go in low A tier, just because it's a really good map for getting shotguns and snowballing off of that, and you can also get just really good loot in general. Honestly, I'm going to put it up to high A tier. I feel like it's just such a good map to snowball off of, going from Adamance to Rend. But at the same time, you could probably go to something else and like snowball harder. Though I guess that's more for like solo play that you would snowball more with Titan than you would with like Rend, but Rend is just mainly great for its like shotgun count. I kind of wish the outdoors was like a little more navigable, like especially for finding like the logs and everything, because there's just so much space that's just kind of unused. Like Rend just has so much space that you could use for like little secrets to place around, but I guess Zeekerss just hasn't gotten around to it yet. Even before all the nerfs, like when version 49, when Rend was like the best map to go to, I guess that's what mainly made me fall in love with this map, and then, like, since then, it's kind of just been my favorite tier 3 to go to, even though Titan is definitely better for solo. Not only that, but if you have, like, the cruiser, Rend is, like, so good, like, especially with the lineup you can do from main to ship, it's such a good map. So yeah, main thing I'd really want for balancing on the Rend is just to fix giant AI, and then I feel like it's fine for where it's at. Okay, so Dine. You know, Rend is great for the tier 3 position where it's at. Dine is fucking awful for where it's at. Now, the power level outside did get reverted from 10 to 7, so thankfully Zeekerss was kind in that regard. But he nerfed the, like, scrap, like the value you get from it and the types of scrap you get. So you're getting, like, worse value from Dine. You're getting worse value from the scrap inside. You're getting worse value from butlers instead of nutcracker spawning, because the shotguns from nutcrackers, you can sell them for 60 credits, but you can only sell the knives for 35. So it's like, wow, dude, thank you for giving me a worse fucking weapon that I can sell. And not only that, but you're giving me worse value items on the map for a map that's even more difficult to play than Rend, because you usually don't know how to play against the mountains. Like, Dine just needs better value to be good. Like, literally, as soon as you bring up that value, Dine suddenly becomes like a normal tier 3 that you can play. Because usually, if you know how to play against the mountains outside, it's not that bad of a map. Like, the outdoor enemies really aren't that bad. Now, the main issue is, with main's placement, it's really fucking terrible, because you're usually going to get a giant or, like, dog outside, and then it just camps main, and it's like, wow, I can't play the game now. Like, moving main, like, literally, why did Zeekerss do so much to just smite Dine into the abyss? Literally, all in one update, we got 10 power level, moved main so it's even harder to play floods, worse value items all over the place, so it's just even worse to play the map. Like, this map didn't need more reasons to not go there. We needed more reasons to go there. I don't know. I just genuinely, it is mind-boggling the changes that were made. And not only that, but you have worse enemy spawns here. You have one more power level than Rend. So Rend's power level is 6, this one is 7, so you can have worse enemy spawns for that. And then you have the chance to get an Old Bird and an Earth Leviathan. They're not high chances, but they can still happen, and it's like pain. I don't know. Dine just needs to have some slight overhaul to make it better. Or for Zeekerss to fix the fire exit so you could put like a double fire exit on like a mansion or something. Because if you could have like a fire exit on like a further spot away from like the main and like everything else, I feel like that would be great. Or just using up the like unknown space, or like the unused space rather, for like some secrets or something. Just give the map more life. As Dine currently stands, it's just not worth it on every single account. It is a more expensive moon to get less value, just get fucked up more easily from the enemy spawns, especially considering the fact that its like spawn curves are similar to Titan. Like, I could literally rant on and on and on about why Dine is just not a good map. Just don't go to Dine. We're literally going to put this in F tier because it's just not a good map. Why would you ever pay to go here? Like, I genuinely think there's more of an argument to be made to go to Embrion, because at least you're going to have fun there. Dine is like a map you would pay to because you're expecting value and you just get shafted. You know, I guess the thing that Dine does have running for it is that you can use the map to practice. Like, it's a really good practice moon to like get used to enemies and shit, but that's kind of it. As soon as Dine is like fixed a little bit to actually be better, then I'll actually love the map, but right now, I hate it so much. Okay, so the very last tier 3 moon, Titan. Arguably the very best moon to go to, on both solo and multiplayer almost. I feel like there's more of a case to be made that going a multiplayer is a bad idea for Titan, but for solo, it is just literally the best moon. And the reason why Titan's the best moon is because you have such high like scrap counts that make it so even if you're getting shit loot, it's still like decent value shit loot. And like the map size is gigantic, but because there's so many items everywhere, it actually makes it a lot more fun to like go around the brick rooms and actually find something as opposed to march. Still shouldn't go into brick rooms, that's a really bad idea, but it's still like good. And not only that, but you've also got like the main and fire right next to the ship practically, so it's incredibly fast to transfer back and forth, allowing you to find even more loot. Honestly, I think all of that together just makes Titan S tier. Like, it's just such a good moon. It is hard to play, yes, but the highs you can get from it, and pretty consistently too, is just so good. If there was anything I'd change about Titan, it would just be to add more things outside to find. I just want more things to find and explore. I honestly don't think I really have much issues with like the power level or really the spawns of the loot because it's just balanced well overall. The only unfortunate part is that the cruiser is practically unusable. I don't see how you could argue it being useful here. Like, let's say you find a lineup. Like, there is a lineup on YouTube, like, of someone actually, like, getting up, like, on top of fire. But it didn't look that great, and I'm not gonna lie. Like, if you're on solo anyways, you have to set up the magnet so when you get off the cruiser, like, when you do the jump, you can actually land in the magnet and it, like, catches you. But you can't really do that on Titan. So it's kind of just a bad idea as well, because you've also got dogs as well. So if you just move it slightly forward and you don't do a boost jump, it's still just a bad idea because of dogs, like, pathing into it and then blowing it up. I will say that the cruiser is somewhat usable on Dine, and there is the, like, 5 boost, like, lineup going from main back to ship, but it's just not great. It's just not great. It's definitely usable, so if you're on Dine and you're at least comfortable with the cruiser and you know the map layout, I would recommend using it. Okay, so we finally get on to the final 2 moons, and we'll start out with Embrion, since that's the one I usually go to. And it is not a great moon to, like, actually play out. Like, if you're trying to get high value, don't go to Embrion. This moon is pretty much just like a higher, like, scrap yield, like, experimentation. It just spawns troll items mostly. Like, the most you're usually going to be getting Easter eggs, metal sheets, and, like, toilet paper, so it's just fucking with you the entire time. The enemy spawns, both inside and outside, are just actually atrocious, so that also doesn't help much either. The funniest thing, though, is that with Embrion, if you have the cruiser, it's pretty playable. Like, quite frankly, Embrion's really playable with the cruiser, but otherwise, like on foot or with the jetpack, it's really hard. The thing is, though, Embrion is like, it has so much awful shit going for it that it, like, veers into being, like, funny bad. Like, it's honestly not even that bad to play. Every time I play Embrion, I'm usually having a good time because there's just so much chaos everywhere. I don't know. I usually don't have a bad time if I'm going to Embrion just because of that whole chaos factor. And because of that, I'm going to put it as like a low C because it's definitely better than like playing Experimentation or Offense because these just kind of suck and there's not really much like going for it. Dine is just shit. Embrion is shit, but you know it's shit, and you're going there expecting it to be shit, and I feel like that's the main thing that, like, separates it. Alrighty, so the very last moon, Artifice, and I feel like this is an incredibly obvious S tier. Like, how could this moon not be S tier? It is literally the best moon in the game to get loot. The funny thing about Artifice, too, is it's the only moon in the game that you can get a gold bar only day because the chance is actually high enough to allow that to happen. No other moon in the game actually has a high enough gold bar chance to actually get like that as a gold bar only day. And if that wasn't funny enough, the amount of scrap you get on this is literally higher than every other moon, so why wouldn't you go to Artifice? And not only that, but you have a chance for bees as well, increasing the total amount you can get from that too. The thing that mainly sucks about Artifice is the enemy spawns, both inside and outside, but it's usually playable unless no old bird spawns. If you get unlucky enough to not get any old birds outside, it can be really painful. You pretty much just have to quickly loot inside and then just hope you don't get some bad enemy spawns, because otherwise you're probably going to get wall-upped, but just be better. It's just that easy. And if that all wasn't like good enough, you've also got the cruiser lineup from ship to fire, which just makes the map even better. Like the amount of things that go for it as well. And it's also like the cruiser map TM. It was literally the map that introduced the cruiser as well, at least for the trailer video. So just completely enjoyable on that front. And not only that, but if you're on foot as well, you can trap old birds and giants in like the big buildings, the warehouses. Obviously, it's not easy, but it's still pretty doable. You can't really trap dogs in there since they'll still exit through the doorways, but otherwise, it's pretty good. The only sucky part about Artifice is that the high end of the scrap was like lowered a bit in version 60, so if you're going for high quota, you're practically forced to be in version 55 if you want to actually get like good value. Hopefully when like liquidation or like something else comes out, Artifice gets bumped up, or like that moon is like better, so that way we have like a new high quota moon and we can actually push the limit up more. So that way we can see the bread 30k. That would be sick. You know, as much as I would doubt that to happen. If anything, I would just mainly want like the value to go up a bit, but I imagine it was lower just to like balance, I guess, other things. I'm not sure what place like Zeeker's plans to have this as for like the future, but lowering the scrap is probably a good indicator of what he plans to do with it. I guess I would just mainly want like more things once again outside to go and explore. Like there's that entire like dam outside and like those pipes, and there's just nothing there. They just exist. And not only that, but you've got all those like desks and everything inside the buildings and like all the random shit. So it would just be cool to see like little bits of lore as well. I guess it's cool that we already got like the buildings as well, so it's something, but I wish for more. Honestly, I feel like this is pretty good positioning for all of the moons and everything. There's not really much I would really change. Dine is just, it really is just that bad. I really don't see how you could argue it out of F tier just because it's just not great for a tier 3 moon. Well, thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the tier list. If you would like to see more like tier list videos, just let me know in the comments below. Until next video, I'll see you next one.